Alongside the emergence, so the avant-garde is part of a tradition. Alongside the emergence of the avant-garde tradition is a strong return to the written text. And here, ironically, may be the only really new thing about today's niche garde. Rejection of the written text and what it stood for, that is, authors and authority, was a hallmark of the historical avant-garde. Avant-garde manifestos called for burning libraries and wrecking museums. In theater, I was not alone in advocating, rejecting words as written by playwrights, deconstructing, twisting, and collaging texts. The Wooster Group, well, I'm not going to go into that because you probably know the Wooster Group, and I want to move ahead, but the Wooster Group, how many of you know the Wooster Group, have heard of them? Just few. Okay, so I founded a group called the Perfomance Group, which did site-specific work in environmental theater, which is the name of a book of mine. And then my assistant director, also a person who acted with me, Elizabeth Lecomte, took over the Perfomance Group when I left, renamed it the Wooster Group, and did a series of performances making the Wooster Group probably the best-known American experimental group at this present moment. And they took the texts and they collaged them. They took words by T.S. Eliot, Thornton Wilder, Arthur Miller, and Anton Chekhov and Jean Racine, and made things that were kind of pastiches and collages. But in the 90s, the text as text reasserted itself. Again, I'm going to skip that part of this talk, because I'm talking about the text reasserting itself not as language to be interpreted. That's the way we do classic plays. We take Shakespeare and we say, I can do Romeo and Juliet different than you did it. I can do West Side Story with it. Or I can do, you know, I just did a piece called Imagining O, which is a kind of version of Hamlet in a different way. So that's classical reinterpretation. What I'm talking about with these other works is to take the words themselves and the book as an object, and in a certain sense present and stage the book as a physical object and the words as physical objects. I'm not going to go into that right now. Rather than tearing everything down and starting from new, the niche garde, which I'm calling the new avant-garde, in line with ecological conservation, recycles and circulates techniques, texts, and performances. The tendency to conserve and recycle is hugely helped by the easy availability of what amounts to an infinite archive, digitally preserved. This explosion of access to information and the ease with which this information can be processed creates a respect for the past. Very important. I think that you younger people out there have probably more respect for the past than when I was your age I had. This respect for the past starts with a respect for the personal past. My family, my work, my archive. And many people, you know, Facebook depends upon the sharing of an archive. You know, what you post on the wall stays on the wall, and then you decide what to put in the archive. Sometimes you're a little bit embarrassed about it, but it's a kind of construction of a public autobiography. And it's enormously popular because it could be shared. And the notion of friend is recast. Friend means, who do I want to look at what I'm showing? That's what a friend means on Facebook. Not who do I trust most, who do I go for in trouble, you know, but it's a different kinds of things. Now, of course, it's Zuckerberg and whoever is working for him who introduced the idea of friending. It's a very interesting idea of marketing this kind of relationship that is not as intimate as lover and not as distant as just somebody I know. Friend occupies a very comfortable middle ground where you're not so close that you, oh boy, you're a little queasy, and you're not so distant that, like your boss. So, but anybody can be friended. And now what I do on Facebook, of course I'm a nasty boy, I accept all requests for friends. So if you do it, I'll accept it, but I post nothing. So I have never posted anything. I did one paragraph, I think, on Abu Dhabi. Otherwise, my wall is as clean as a baby's tush. So, well, maybe that's not so clean, but after a bath. But I do accept, so I have, because I want to see how many friends I can have. And then finally I can say, you know, I got 8,400 or maybe 1 million friends. Who knows? I'm only up to about a couple of hundred right now.